Good evening. My name is Mike Heim, and I'm the Chief of Operations and Supporting Service for Charles County Public Schools. I welcome everyone to this evening's redistricting hearing on the redistricting process to create a school zone for Margaret J. Thornton Elementary School, and also to alleviate overcrowding in the schools surrounding our new school. I'd like to first introduce a few people who have joined us this evening. Our board chair, Mrs. Moore Lee.
Hello.
Our board vice chair, Mrs. Kramer. Board member, Mr. Hancock. Board member, Mr. Lucas. Board member, Ms. Thomas. Board member, Ms. Thomas. Our superintendent of schools, Dr. Navarro. And our two facilitators for the redistricting process, Steve Andritz, who's our director of planning and construction, and Jason Tompkins, who's our director of transportation. This evening, you'll hear a brief overview of the redistricting process, along with the two proposals that were created by the two committees who worked separately during the redistricting process to come up with two distinct plans. And then lastly, there'll be an opportunity for the public to provide comments on one or both of the redistricting plans. So at this point, I turn it over to our two co-facilitators, Mr. Andritz and Mr. Tompkins.
Good evening. As Mr. Heim mentioned, my name is Steve Andritz, and I am the Director of Planning and Construction. So we're going to start with the presentation. This is the same presentation that was given at the March board meeting, but the name of the school has been officially decided, so you will actually see that referenced on the slide. Above, you have a rendering by the architect of what the facility is going to look like when it's done. Next slide. So this is an actual... Just waiting for it to change just a second, sorry. Okay, this is an actual aerial that was recently taken of the construction of the school. Margaret J. Thornton Elementary School is scheduled to open for school year 25-26. The cost of construction is just over almost $45.5 million. Educationally, it's about 91,500 square feet. The state rated capacity is going to be 778, and it is located at 5860 St. David Drive in White Plains in the Highlands neighborhood of St. Charles, right off St. Charles Parkway, about a mile from here.
All right, I'm Jason Tompkins. I'm the Director of Transportation. And the next slide is the superintendent's charge. The committee was charged with creating two alternatives for establishing a new school boundary for elementary school Margaret J. Thornton, address overcrowding at surrounding elementary schools. This process is not comprehensive redistricting, but aims to develop an attendance zone for Margaret J. Thornton Elementary School, consider state rate capacities, anticipated growth, and target enrollment provided by schools and county staff.
Okay, the next slide is for Policy 1900, which is one of several policies that govern what the board is doing. So the Board of Education has the responsibility of monitoring enrollment and looking at ways to sustain education. So the board is also aware that population growth occurs because of the development and because of shifts in population. So this describes how redistricting is to be done and the factors to be considered.
Policy 1910, factors to consider when redistricting: school capacity, impact of educational programs, quality on affected schools, student enrollment trends, the age or consideration of school buildings, financial considerations such as temporary housing and operating costs per student.
Additional factors for Policy 1900 are transportation, trying to minimize the distance to the school or the number of students being transported at a time and how much time they spend on the bus. Any other impacts to the communities, including the size of student population relocated, natural boundaries or communities impacted. There's a desirability by the board to minimize redistricting for elementary or middle to once every 3 years. There's also desirability of movement limitation for high school to after initial enrollment. One point that we want to make here is that if you have students who would have been impacted by the prior rezoning, they will be out of elementary school by the time, so if they were moved prior to the elementary school redistricting for Billingsley, they will be out of elementary school by the time the new school, Margaret J. Thornton Elementary, opens.
Policy 1930, final decision making. The board is responsible for making the final decision on adjusting school boundaries. Consideration for the final decision includes committee reports, recommendation from the superintendent, testimony from affected communities, and testimony and comments from the public.
Okay, next are some general guidelines. These are things that were given to the committees. As Mr. Heim mentioned a few minutes ago, we had two committees, and we'll discuss their makeup in a minute, that worked independently. And so these are some general guidelines they had. All neighborhoods are eligible except for those walking zones, which would be neighborhoods that are directly surrounding, where you have walking students, walkable zones. Additionally, we don't split neighborhoods whenever possible. You account for future and residential growth as well as current student enrollment when you're moving blocks. You consult with transportation for the impacts on bus routes and busing times. And also, you start, when you're creating zones, you start impacting other zones from the outside and peeling off those outermost layers as you move forward.
Next up, we have the redistricting timeline. On October 10th, the announcement of the committee members at the monthly school board meeting. On October 25th, the redistricting committee held at St. Thomas High School. November through January, the committee met every Wednesday from 6 to around about 8:30 to develop two alternatives. January, the committee finalized two alternatives. March 12th, the committee presented alternatives to the superintendent. April 2nd, which marks today, is our first hearing at St. Charles. May 1st will be our second hearing at Thomas Stone High School, and that will be at 6 o'clock. May 21st, the superintendent presents the recommendations to the board, and this will be at the Starkey Boardroom. May 22nd, the public hearing on the superintendent's recommendation, and on June 11th, the board votes to approve a plan.
So next, we're going to talk about the redistricting committee. As Mr. Tompkins just mentioned, the board drew names, and so they were announced at the October 10th meeting. It was done via random draw. We had CCPS staff that supported the work of the groups. They were CCPS and local government staff to advise them on growth and transportation issues. Additionally, we did have principals that were involved with the redistricting committees, actually on the committees making decisions, but they were not from the elementary school level. So they would have been from middle school, high school, or a center. So the makeup of the committee was we had 8 elementary school parents, we had 2 middle school parents, 1 high school parent, the 4 administrators we just mentioned, and then 3 community members at large. So these number of people were put into 2 equal groups, and they worked independently to create their proposals. Okay, so the next slide, this is a slide just representing the current boundaries of all the elementary schools in Charles County. And then we have an overview of Alternative A, and I'm going to go through all of Alternative A. Alternative A moves 567 students total. These are existing enrolled students. And this is what that map looks like with all of the schools impacted joining. So Margaret J. Thornton Elementary School under Alternative A has a state rated capacity of 778. There is no official September 30, 23 enrollment because there is no students enrolled there yet. Their proposed enrollment from committee Group A for the opening year would be 536 students, and for school year 28-29 is proposed to be at 629 students. They are moving students in from Middleton Elementary School, from Matula Elementary School, and from Billingsley Elementary School. And then this next slide that you see with the purple shows what the zone looks like as a sum total zone for elementary 23, which is now Margaret J. Thornton Elementary. Next, we have Billingsley Elementary School, and you'll see areas in red. These areas in red are being moved out of Billingsley. They're moving to moving to Jamison Thornton Elementary School. So their proposed enrollments are 523 in school year 25-26 and 523 in 28-29. And that's their total zone. Next, we have Malcolm Elementary School. You see a block there in red that's moving out of Malcolm to J.P. Ryan. In 25-26, their enrollment is proposed to be 328 students, and then in 28-29, 330 students. And this would be the zone. There are 2 areas in green, so there's 2 areas that make up the zone for Malcolm after this proposal with A. Next, we have Matula. Matula is sending 2 blocks that are in red to Margaret J. Thornton Elementary School. In school year 25-26, their proposed enrollment is 547 students, and in 28-29, it's 601. And this is Matula's sum zone when the alternative A proposal is considered. Next, we have Arthur Middleton Elementary School. You'll see there's a large chunk of red to the bottom that's being sent to Margaret Jameson Elementary School. Margaret Jameson Thornton, excuse me. In 25-26, their proposed enrollment is 277 students, and in 28-29 is 278 students. One thing that's important to note is Middleton Elementary School will start next year with a dual language program. And as such, when the redistricting committees were working with the proposals, they were set at a lower than state rated capacity threshold to account for the students that were going to be coming because of this program. So this program starts, as I mentioned, next year with kindergarten and pre-K students and will grow each year by a grade level. And this is what Middleton's zone looks like after the moves for alternative A. And then we have Neal Elementary School. Neal is actually moving 4 blocks in from J.P. Ryan. And for 25-26, they're shown with 578 students projected, and 28-29, 578 students projected. And then that's Neal's final zone. And last for alternative A is Ryan. So Ryan has areas that are moving in green from Malcolm and out in red to Ryan. Out in red to Neal. In 25-26, their proposed enrollment, projected enrollment is 595 students, and in 28-29 is 689 students. And this is Ryan's zone after alternative A. And now I'm going to turn over to Jason.
Overview of alternative B. So alternative B touches 1,044 students. Next slide. The Margaret Jameson Thornton Elementary School receives 4 blocks from Matula, 4 from Billingsley, and 2 from Middleton, with a state rate capacity of 778. In SY 25 and 26, the projected enrollment is 618, and the projected enrollment for 28-29 is 731. And on the next slide is a full map of the new zone of Margaret Jameson Thornton Elementary School. Next slide. Next slide, we have Berry Elementary Zone. In Berry, 1 block is moved to Diggs, the one marked in red, giving Berry 753 for their current enrollment. The projected enrollment for SY 25 and 26 will be 591. The projected enrollment of 2028 through 29 is 633. And the next picture is the full school zone of Berry. All right. Next slide, we have Billingsley Elementary School. State rated capacity is 758. Official enrollment is 698. The projected enrollment of 2025 and 26 is 642. With the projected enrollment for 28-29 is 654. Billingsley receives 1 block from Diggs, but it also loses, it also gives 1 block to Wade, 2 to Middleton, and 4 to Billingsley.
No, floor to Thornton.
To Thornton, I do apologize. And the next page is Billingsley, the full map. Diggs Elementary School Zone. State rate capacity is 725. The official enrollment is 846. The projected enrollment for 2025 to 26 is 676. The projected enrollment for 28-29 is 687. We're moving in one block from Berry, and we're moving one block out to Billingsley. On the next page, it shows the full map of Diggs Elementary School Zone. Matula ES Zone Alternative. The state rated capacity of Matula is 656. The official enrollment is 576. The projected enrollment is 478 for the 25 and 26 school year. The projected enrollment for SY 28 to 29 is 570. We're moving to Thornton Elementary School. We're moving 4 blocks from Matula. And on the next page, you see the full map of Matula. Martin Elementary School Zone, Alternative B. State rated capacity is 450. Then official enrollment is 551. The projected enrollment 2025 through 2026 is 572. The projected enrollment of 28 and 29 is 589. And as you see, there's one block that we added to TC Martin from Mitchell. On the next page is the full map of TC Martin. The Middleton ES Zone Alternative for Plan B. State rate capacity is 507. The official enrollment currently is 696. The projected enrollment of 2025 to 26 is 397. The projected enrollment for SY 28 to 29 is 398. And with this, we're moving in blocks from JP Ryan and also Billingsley. And then we're given 3 blocks from Middleton to go to Margaret Jameson Thornton Elementary School. All right. On the next page, you see the full map of Middleton. Next, we have Mitchell Elementary School Zone. The state rated capacity is 578. The official enrollment is 605. The projected enrollment, SY for 25 to 26 is 550. The projected enrollment for 28-29 is 555. And we're moving out one block to TC Martin. On the next page is the full map of Mitchell. Next, we have JP Ryan. The state rated capacity is 640. The official enrollment is 619. The projected enrollment of SY 25 to 26 is 574. The projected enrollment of 28 and 29 is 631. As you see on the map, that we moved out one block to Middleton. On the next page is the full map of JP Ryan. Wade Elementary School Zone. State rated capacity is 679. The official enrollment is 636. The projected enrollment 25-26 is 576. And the projected enrollment 28-29 is 578. We moved in one block from Billingsley. On the next slide, you have the full map of Wade.
Okay, next we have a quick reference chart for everyone that shows the schools impacted, all the schools impacted, whether they be in Proposal A or Proposal B. And you'll note that the first school is named Thornton, as well as Elementary 23. It lists the state rated capacity. It lists their official enrollment from September 30th, 2023, this school year, and then what their enrollment is projected in the year of opening, 25-26, under Alternative A or Alternative B. So as we look across and use Thornton Elementary School as the first one, 778 is the state rated capacity. There was no official enrollment for this year because obviously the school is not open yet. Alternative A shows them in school year 25-26 at 536 students, and Alternative B shows them at 618 students. A couple of other points to highlight here as you look down. If you see under A or B a no movement, that means that that particular group did not impact that school. Additionally, when you see under the state rated capacity, there are 3 schools with asterisks. They are Malcolm Elementary School, J.P. Ryan, and T.C. Martin. Malcolm and J.P. Ryan both recently had full-day kindergarten additions that opened for this school year, so their state rated capacity numbers have not been adjusted to account for those additional classrooms. And then T.C. Martin is undergoing a full renovation expansion as we speak that is scheduled to open for this coming school year, so it will open in August of 2024. So that number is going to change for their state rated capacity as well. One other note we wanted to mention is that if you look, there's a double asterisk beside Middleton Elementary School. As I mentioned before, Middleton Elementary School is starting a dual language immersion program that will start this coming school year. And as such, it will start with kindergarten and pre-K and add a grade level each year. So we worked with the folks in instruction that are going to lead this program as to a reasonable target of seats to leave available for that program. And a threshold was set just 100 students under their state rated capacity to account for that additional program. So when you look at the factors, when you look at all that, that's what this chart does. And with that, I'll turn it over to Jason.
So with the next chart, we're looking at the next 5 years after opening. So we have Thornton with state rated capacity of 778, and with alternative A in 28-29, it's at 629. With alternative B, it's at 731. Berry for the next with this rated capacity of 724, it offers no movement with alternative A. With alternative B, after the 5 years, it's at 633. Billingsley at 758. With alternative A, it would be 523. And then with alternative B, it would be 654. Diggs offers no movement with alternative A. But with alternative B, it hits 687. Malcolm at 694. Would be 330 with alternative A, but no movement with alternative B. Martin, 450, no movement with alternative A. With alternative B, it would hit 589. Matula, with alternative A, would be 601. With alternative B, it would hit 570. Middleton, with alternative A would be 278. With alternative B would be 389. Mitchell, with no movement with alternative A. And alternative B, it would hit 555. Neal, alternative A would be 578. With alternative B would be no movement. Ryan, 689 for alternative A, and alternative B, 631. Wade, alternative A would have no movement. Alternative B would have 578.
one comment about the last slide. It's important to note that we're showing the projection 3 years out because of the board policy that tries to limit redistricting to 3 years. We want to make sure we're looking at what those enrollments look like at that 3-year window. Okay, next we have some resources for you. So there's the web address here on where you can find information on redistricting, as well as an email address for people to send comments or questions to. Okay?
So next steps. So today we're at our first public hearing. Wednesday, May 1st, we'll be at our second public hearing at Thomas Stone at 6 p.m. May 21st, the superintendent presents recommendations to the board at the Starkey Building. May 22nd, Wednesday, May 22nd, the public hearing on the superintendent's recommendations. And Tuesday, June 11th, 2024, the board will vote on a plan for the 25-26 school year.
One other point to add is, as Jason just mentioned, with the board meeting on June 11th and the decision by the board, that is a year in advance of the school actually opening. The intent of the board with redistricting is to provide as much notice as possible to the general public, and it gives them an entire year to be aware of what the changes are, impacts, so they are able to make any decisions that they need to make as part of that. And that concludes our presentation.
At this time, we'll have the public comment portion of this evening's program. So at this time, I would welcome, we have one person who has signed up to speak this evening. So I would welcome our speaker to come down to the microphone, and we would just ask that you introduce yourself and then go ahead and provide your testimony, please.
Hey, good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
My name is Adib Parker. I live in the Ashford Oaks community in Waldorf, and I have 2 kids. They both attend Berry Elementary. And my kids have only gone to Berry Elementary since kindergarten to my oldest one is getting ready to leave. He's in 5th grade. My younger one is in 3rd, so he still has a couple more years. And I guess they've been there long enough for us to remember when, before Billingsley was built, it was massively overcrowded. I think their attendance was somewhere around 900. And so subsequently, when Billingsley was built, that redistricting plan really provided a lot of relief to just, I'm sure, the teachers and the students alike. So after the Billingsley redistricting plan, we really saw just the numbers of kids in their classrooms really drop to a pretty significant level of, 18 to 20. Then COVID happened, but over the last 2-3 years, due to, many factors like just, increased number of residents moving and just things that, you would expect, the number of enrolled students has kind of gone back up. And, I guess from looking at this wonderful presentation, we see that it's a lot higher than the state rated capacity. So in looking at the plan, I got a chance to look at it earlier today. I think that option B kind of provides a similar approach to what happened when Billingsley was built and that plan was executed. So I think for looking at not just Berry, but also a couple of the other schools, it also provides some similar relief to kind of balancing, across multiple schools. And I think that just observing my 2 kids, I think I remember them really benefiting from having smaller class sizes and just other things that the difficulty it is in hiring teachers and classrooms and having, trailers and temporaries. It kind of helps mitigate some of those potential issues by kind of spreading, the students out a little bit, even though it does have, it probably impacts the most students, probably double in option B. I think that a lot of the kids will ultimately benefit from having just a better ratio, classroom ratio, and thus alike. So that's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you.
That was all the speakers we had to sign up for this evening. But if there's anyone else in the audience who had a question or would like to also provide a comment, please feel free to do so at this time. If not, I thank everyone for attending. I also thank those online who viewed our redistricting hearing this evening. And as a reminder, we will have a second redistricting hearing in May. And again, that will be in advance of when our superintendent of schools, Dr. Navarro, will make her recommendation to the board during the May board meeting. So again, there'll be one more opportunity for the public to come out publicly to speak, to provide comments, but also, as you saw during the presentation, with the redistricting resource page, we also welcome question comments to that webpage. So at this,
Mr. Hine, sorry. I was just going to ask, do any of the board members have any questions or comments? I know we've gotten a lot of this already. I don't have anything. Does anyone? I can't see everybody. No? Okay. Just wanted to check. Thank you.
so at this time, I will conclude this evening's activity. And again, I thank everyone who participated this evening and also those who were online. And again, I welcome you to continue to follow the redistricting process through the web page, and also the information is put out through our communications office led by Mrs. Shelley Mackey. Thank you and have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.